Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, give me just a minute. I'm gonna put my camera off. I think it's because the heater is running. Hold on for just a minute.
Okay.
Are you getting a lot of feedback?
No.
Okay, maybe it's just me. Okay, so I'm gonna make the assumption, guys, that we are already live on YouTube. This is Coach Rose AJ Carnivore Girl for Life coming live with Kim Shine. And guys, I just started this yard stream or stream yard, and Kim is the first person that I'm going live with. And she was a bold person because I asked her after our initial interview, would she be willing to do this with me to kind of help me get into the live game? And so, Kim, what I've titled this as it's perimenopause, menopause, and carnivore. And although your interview will be airing next week, it's okay if we just focus on that because that's your area of expertise as far as I'm concerned. About
I don't know
delving
about
into
it.
this way of no about delving into this way of life so we can pretty much just kind of just go with the flow and see what happens and see if anybody comments or if we just have a conversation. So let me ask you, Kim, what have you been up to lately? Because it's been about 2 weeks, I think, since we first chatted.
Yeah. Well, I have been sort of obsessed. I love all the carnivore cooking shows, and I'm not big on like I'm never going to be a gourmet cook, but I love the idea that we can have some flexibility. Don't get me wrong. I'm perfectly happy with my ground beef and my steak and my lamb chops. But I tried the egg white bread, the easy one, the one that's just made out of powder. It's delicious. And I made myself, for the first time in I don't know how many years, a sandwich.
Okay,
Because,
wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. So is it, you got to explain this because I don't
okay.
go down that route. So tell me
Oh,
about
okay.
this. Tell me about this.
So Maria Emmerich basically has been doing this carnivore thing forever, like long before, the current tribe. And so she has this recipe. She's got a video where she shows you 3 ways to make this egg bread. There's like one version with egg whites, and I'm too lazy. I'm not going to cut open egg whites. And another version with egg whites and something else. But then she has her easiest egg bread recipe. And so basically, you buy powdered egg whites, and you basically put that in your mixer with some cream of tartar and some allulose just so it gets like brown on the outside and looks like bread. I'm going to try it without the allulose because I don't care what it looks like.
Okay.
But anyway, you put that in the mixer and you pour water in there and you turn the thing on for 5 minutes and it turns basically to a huge meringue. Well, you bake that in a loaf pan and out comes bread. It
Oh
looks
my
like white
word.
bread. And so I just put like butter on it and some like corned beef that I bought. And I made myself a little sandwich. And even when I was keto, I didn't really do the breads. So because they weren't anywhere close. But this is actually pretty close texture wise. Like
Right.
like you could make a sandwich and put it in a Ziploc and put it in your purse. And
Oh my
you know,
word.
the gluten free or the keto ones, like you have to toast them for them to taste good. But this will have the consistency but it's all protein. It's 100% protein, 100% carnivore except for the cream of tartar and the allulose. So I've been experimenting with that. That was fun. My husband even liked it. I made osso buco. I basically put the beef shanks in the instant pot with some broth, and so
Okay.
he dipped it in the broth. So Yeah, so I did that, and then I've been going crazy with my dehydrator. So as I mentioned in our interview, I mistakenly went down the vegetarian, vegan, raw vegan path
Mhm.
before I found this wonderful way of life. And so I had this dehydrator because, in the raw vegan thing, everything's got to be like dried at a
Mhm.
certain temperature so all the enzymes stay alive. And so I had this expensive dehydrator that was literally like way up in the cupboard where I'd never use it. And I thought, I can make my own beef jerky.
Mm.
So I like taking, and actually, after I did this for the first time, I found out that Dr. Baker does this too, and it's one of his
Oh,
favorite things. You get the fattiest cut of meat you can imagine. I do chuck.
okay.
You slice it super thin, and you just spread it out, and you sprinkle a little salt on it, and you dehydrate it. And
Okay.
I tell you what, it is so much better than beef jerky because you know how beef jerky you gotta like pull
Yeah.
on it, chew on it for days. This is like meat potato chips, and with
Really?
the fat, the fat gets all crispy. It's
Mhm.
delicious. It's phenomenal. And then I just basically vacuum seal it and throw it in the freezer. So
Okay.
you can make 3 or 4 pounds of this stuff, and then you just vacuum seal it, throw it in the freezer. You can pull a pouch out
Okay.
and have delicious chuck steak whenever you want.
Now, if I remember correctly, you were in the process of doing that when I first talked to you, when I first met you, right? Where you were in the process and you were going to go on a trip or something like that and
Yes,
take some with you.
exactly
And
right. But
how did
but
that
now
go?
I haven't gone on the trip yet,
Oh,
but I had to make more because I've been snacking on it. It's so good.
okay. Okay. Well, I have to tell you, I either need to step up my game or just be totally okay with where I'm at because I just do the hamburger patties, the chuck roast, the eggs. I mean, I'm very, very simple with it. And yeah, and actually I'm finishing up my 5 dozen eggs that I have now, and then I'm gonna try to go without eggs for maybe 5 to 7 days and see how I feel. I don't think I'll ever be lion, but just to have an experiment in there, because I use them as fillers, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
Like, I have this much meat, I'm gonna have the eggs to fill off the rest.
yeah. Aren't they perfect for that? I do
Yeah.
the same thing. I do the same
Mhm.
thing. And in fact, tonight is leftover night. So Ray's got a New York strip he's going to have, and there's only 2 of the little lamb chops left, and I like to have 3 or 4. So I'll probably whip up an omelet to go with my 2 lamb chops. You know what I mean? So yeah, they're wonderful rounder outers,
Okay.
eggs. So,
So let me interject here with a little commercial public service announcement, right? So, guys, if you don't know, on May the 11th, I'm hosting a meetup with Midlife Carnivore up at Green Lake. And it's a 5K walk that starts at 11 a.m. And then we'll have a coffee social at Starbucks at Green Lake at 12 o'clock. So if you guys are in the Seattle area, please come out and join your meat friends, MEAT friends, or if you're on a low carb lifestyle, ketovore, ketogenic, whatever it is, or if you're just curious and want to make some new friends, come out and say hi to us. And Kim said that she would be attending as well. And if you have friends, bring your friends too, because I love meeting new people around the Pacific Northwest. So that's one announcement. And I will put that in the show notes as far as where to sign up on Eventbrite, or you can just show up. And the second thing is I'm hosting, have you heard of Step Bet, Kim? Step
no,
Bet.
no,
Okay. So it's an app that's been around for a while. And what it is you essentially place a bet or you go in and find a team to join. And the Step Bet app sets your steps according to what your Fitbit or your Apple Watch or whatever device you're using. It goes back, I don't know how far in time to kind of calculate what your average should be. So, say for instance, if you did 10,000 steps a day on average, it might encourage you to do 10,005 5 days a week, and then maybe 2 days a week, you have like 11,000. So long as you meet those challenges of movement, you're in the game. But when you don't meet it, right, you don't meet it, you fall out of the game. So right now, I'm in 2 challenges myself, and then I will be hosting one starting May 1st through June 11th. It's a 6-week challenge for women that are 50 years old and older because we need to stay active in order to be healthy, take care of ourselves. And it's just like a team effort, and we can comment in real life, real time about how we're doing and
Oh,
stuff like that. And then
I
the, oh, go
Oh, I
ahead,
was
go
just
ahead.
going to say, I have never used a Fitbit or anything, so this would almost motivate me to buy one because I don't
Yeah,
know how many steps I take. I walk the dog every day. It'd be fun to find out exactly how many steps I take in a day. So
yeah.
maybe I'll hop on to Amazon and buy a Fitbit and join your thing.
Yeah, that would be so awesome. The more the merrier. Right now, I have 5 people, and I'm hoping to grow that to at least 10, 15, because the more people that we have, the bigger the pot. And if everybody meets their goals, say for instance, everybody hangs in there, you get your $40 back.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not as though you're going to lose. So you at least get your $40 back, and you meet some new friends along the way. And then the third thing is that on February the 4th, I may have mentioned this to you, Kim, is that I started Pacific Northwest Ladies 50 Plus here in Tacoma, where I do 5Ks at Chambers Bay every Sunday. And we do movie meetups, we do concert meetups, we just do different things around the area. And that has grown to 203 members. And I am still pushing strong for that. There will be some travel in there. We went to Canada, Vancouver, Canada last weekend. The weekend before, we took a train trip there. And then a couple of weeks before that, we went to Portland. So there's a lot of things going on. But those are my three public service announcements. So
Are
that
on the group, are most of the events down your way? Like,
most of them are. And to be quite candid, I was going to list this meetup in on this meetup that we're having for
on
Green
Green Bay?
Lake, but I didn't want people to get confused. So that's why I chose to list it on Eventbrite versus there. But like this Saturday, I'll be in Puyallup. We'll be doing Puyallup, a trail in Puyallup, and coffee in Puyallup. And I go to different places like Olympia and stuff like that. So yeah. So, but Seattle is going to be the furthest one so far. Yeah.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. I'll join up when you put
Yeah. Sure.
when I
Sure.
get to
Sure.
your channel. I'll look for this and find the link.
Okay. Okay. So, have you tried anything new besides the dehydrator lately? Pertaining to
Um,
anything. It doesn't have to be about carnivore or anything. And then we'll delve into talking about menopause, perimenopause, and carnivore.
yeah, I have a friend who's done her fourth retirement now. I mean, I remember when she retired from corporate America, and then she could not work. So she has had 3 or 4 ventures over the time she's been retired. So she's finally retired at 70, and
Wow.
is actually is actually thinking about doing some private or through the community center uh, personal training because she's certified in all of that. And so I do my own little workouts and everything, but I have a goal to get really ripped. I really want to get strong. And so I've reached out to her and said, hey, while you're waiting for this community center thing to come together, why not start right now with me? So
Oh my word.
I just filled out her little questionnaire because very professional. She asks about your health limitations, what your doctor thinks of doing this and all that. So filled out her little questionnaire, and I'm kind of excited. I've never had a personal trainer,
Oh,
and my goal is she has you list out your goals for let's say I think it's 1 month, 6 months, and 1 year.
all
And
right.
so, I put down, I'd like to be able to do, 5 push-ups in the first month or whatever. And then, I basically said at 1 year, I want to be doing pull-ups and push-ups and I want to
Walk,
have
walk.
muscle definition. So that's a new thing for me to
Okay.
consider is actually committing to, work with someone to really take this thing seriously. I don't know if you can see, but I got my little workout. I got my
Yeah. I
bike,
can see your weights and your bike and your mat. Mm-hmm.
but I'm gonna step it up.
Get it, girl. I'm excited for you. So, had you ever done any weight training, strength training, body weight training?
I did
Anything?
actually when I was really young. I used to live in Southern California and I swam. I had a pool. And I don't know how I got into it, but I asked my parents for a weight bench. And I was doing the legs, it was really rudimentary. You could either sit up, at a slant, and then you had the little lever for your legs so you could work your thighs, and then of course the bar, right?
Yeah.
And so I did do that when I was very young. I'd say I was like 14,
Okay.
14 or 15 back then. And then over the years I've been member of a gym, and I can remember doing the different
Hectic.
machines,
Yeah.
but it's been a long time, and I've never had somebody who understands physiology
Mm.
coach me up to build muscle, right? Like it
Yeah.
was always just me on my own. And so I think the thing I'm excited about is like if I can actually achieve the definition results I'm looking for, mostly in my upper arms, and my legs are pretty good from all the bicycling I've done in my life. They're pretty shapely, but I would really like to get some definition in the arms because then I know that I've built the muscle. I can be doing this stuff all day long,
Mhm.
but what I want to see is actually feel and see the
Yes.
muscles grow so I know I'm building, that's your metabolism right there. It's all in your muscle. And so I'm really serious this year about building muscle.
I'm so excited for you. I'm excited about the possibilities of being like, hey, biceps, triceps, pecs, get your back in order. I
Right?
love it. I love
And
it.
I couldn't even think of this without carnivore.
Yeah.
The fatigue and the lack of motivation prior to carnivore.
Mhm.
There's just no way I would be doing this. And so I'm super excited.
Well, hey, so let's switch gears for a sec here and talk
Yeah.
about perimenopause because we're going to
Hmm.
trade war stories on that. I'm going to open the window because I'm
Okay.
having my meat sweats. Okay. So you go ahead and start the conversation because I eat at 3 o'clock every day. So my
Yeah.
body's warmed up now. But go ahead and start with your perimenopause and I'm going to jump
Stories.
in about
Okay.
30 seconds.
Okay. As I look back on it now, really, I've had unbalanced hormones my entire life, you know. But I just thought it was normal. My whole life having this terrible PMS and bad cramps, I just thought that was what periods were like, right? So shame on me, my whole life I've been hormonally unbalanced. Um, Heading into perimenopause, unbalanced like that, it just set me up for massive, massive negative perimenopause experience. I'll talk with my sister-in-law every now and then, and she's like, "Yeah, it was no big deal." And I'm like, "Well, that's the difference between hormonally unbalanced your whole life and somebody who was balanced because it was a big deal for me."
Yeah.
I had, it started, now that I look back on it, it started really young for me, probably 35. I can remember driving home from work and crying all the time
Yeah.
for a while. And then I thought, well, it's my job, so I changed jobs. But, you know, I went from crying every day to just being, stressed out because it was a major job change. And so I probably addressed it with eating, right? Like probably changed up whatever fad diet I was on. So if I'm thinking about it, if anyone out there is 35 and you're having these weird symptoms, what I've learned since then is that perimenopause can start as young as 35, where you start producing less progesterone. The biggest problem with perimenopause is the decline in progesterone. It's not that you're going to have radical fluctuations in the estrogen but when the progesterone declines, you do not have it to counteract all of this estrogen activity. And for me, in a highly stressful job, my adrenals were not able to pick up and make the progesterone, and I what probably wasn't eating enough fat.
Mhm.
And so, without enough fat and with a taxed adrenal system, your adrenals can't make the progesterone that your ovaries stop making.
Yeah.
And so, And so that's how estrogen dominance starts. And all of the symptoms that people complain about in perimenopause and menopause are actually estrogen dominance. It's a very rare case where it's low estrogen causing the problems. You can have very low estrogen, but if you have even lower progesterone, if you have even more,
Yeah.
just a tad more estrogen than you do progesterone, that's where you're going to have, the night sweats and the hot flashes and the anxiety and depression and the insomnia. So I'll just run through what my peak worst perimenopause time included. It included uh, the hot flashes, the night sweats for sure. Then I had extreme high anxiety. I had insomnia. First time in my life. I have slept no problem all most of my life, all of my life, until heading into the perimenopause. And so this idea of having insomnia was terrifying. It's awful. I don't know if you've ever suffered, Rose, from insomnia, but it's horrific to lay in bed and be
Yeah.
completely wired and unable to go to sleep, knowing you have to get up and go to work the next day.
But
So
with that, let me interject with that insomnia, even though it was there when I experienced it, what I did was to counteract that, I would just stay up doing things like reading, studying, doing whatever, and just not going to sleep.
yeah,
Right?
good, good for you. I didn't have the guts to do that. I thought I have got to just lay here and get to sleep because I got to get up and go to work in the morning. And I just listened to a podcast the other day of a sleep expert, and he said, yeah, don't do that. Actually, don't do what you did, Rose. He said, no matter what, you should just stay in bed and meditate. Because even if all you do is meditate for 8 hours and you never get to sleep, that's going to be more healing for your body than like go, 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 get up and read or, put your socks away or whatever. So I guess on the one hand, I was doing it right, except I wasn't meditating. I was laying there worried about it.
Worried about getting sleep. I hear you.
But yeah, the insomnia was bad. What else did I have? Oh, I had the ulcers, horrible ulcers. My digestion just was unbelievably changed with perimenopause. Um, and so it got to the point where I was afraid to eat because I didn't know what was going to make me feel worse or not. I mean, it was terrifying. Um, and so I think I mentioned in the interview, thank God I found progesterone cream because immediately with progesterone cream, away went the hot flashes, the night sweats, the insomnia, and the ulcers
Mm.
started to get better. I still had to tweak. I had to take a lot of supplements along with that progesterone cream to help with the ulcer and some other symptoms. But um, thank God for the progesterone because I was in such a bad shape. And now I realize, I was not getting enough fat. If I had been getting 80/20, if I'd been 80/20 carnivore, there's no way I would have experienced any of that stuff.
So,
Um,
can you recall what your dietary protocol was during that time? Because I know we
yeah.
discussed that, but if you could just share.
Yeah, unfortunately, heading into perimenopause, I talked about this. It was the perfect storm, right? I had just lost my mom, so I had emotional stress from the grief. I was in a highly stressful job, so I had intellectual stress from the job. I was bicycling like crazy to keep my weight down, so I had physical stress all the time, and not supporting that level of physical activity with proper diet. I was like vegan. I was I was vegan, so I wasn't getting the nutrients. Um, and so what I was eating at the time, heading into all of this, was like a lot of rice and beans. I
Mhm.
wasn't big on the fake, soy sausages or anything like that. I would have those occasionally, but I really tried to do the food combining to get my um, full amino acid profile. Of course, shakes are a mandatory thing if you're vegan because otherwise you cannot get enough protein. So the pea protein with the pumpkin protein, I mixed that thinking the amino acid profile would be okay. Lots of vegetables, lots of raw vegetables, juicing. Um, and so that's what I was eating heading into this. And In fact, I was making myself this Swiss muesli dish for breakfast that I would take into work with me, and it involved apples and oats and yogurt, all, just tons of sugar. And so, and I thought I was eating healthy. And,
Mm.
so what happened first was I noticed that the anxiety would get way worse after I ate carbs,
Okay.
And so if you're vegan and you can't eat rice because it makes you crazy,
Yeah.
I reluctantly, I was like, I can't do this anymore. I have to
Mm.
eat something, and I can't eat what I eat. So I went back on animals. I went back on eggs first, eggs and fish, and then a little bit of chicken breast, because I had to cut out the carbs. I had to cut out the rice because I literally would just grind to a halt,
Mm.
and the anxiety would go through the roof. So that ended my vegan thing just out of desperation. I had to eat something. And so, yeah, but then I found that I could not achieve full, um, say, remission from
Okay.
the perimenopause symptoms
Okay.
until I went keto. So
Wow.
all of the blogs I was reading from women who were going through this, they
Mhm.
said if the progesterone and the supplements don't do enough for you,
Mhm.
you're going to have to go paleo, and if that doesn't work, you have to go keto.
And what was the reason for going from where you were at on on vegan, vegetarian to paleo to keto? What was the reason? What was one or two reasons that they
Right.
suggested that?
Well, so for me, I had to go from the vegan to the paleo, let's say, because I had to eliminate those carbs and the grains and all of that stuff.
Okay.
But they were saying that paleo and keto help with the perimenopause, because the thing that people don't understand is that sugar,
Mhm.
okay, so sugar affects your estrogen, and here's how it affects it. In order to battle sugar, your body has to produce insulin, okay? And insulin is a hormone, and all hormones cascade out of the cholesterol and the pregnenolone chain. So if your body is busy trying to pump out insulin because of the carbs,
Right.
it uses up its reserves of pregnenolone to make the insulin and the adrenaline and stuff like that, and it doesn't have enough to make the progesterone to balance the estrogen.
Okay.
And so you can only use so much progesterone cream. I
Mhm.
suppose if I had rubbed progesterone cream on myself 24/7, it's very expensive. But if I had coated myself all over 3, 4, 5 times a day with massive amounts of it, I probably wouldn't have had, to adjust my diet. But I was desperate to like keep the progesterone at a manageable amount financially, right? Like,
Yeah.
and achieve some sort of stability. And
Mhm.
so basically when you go paleo, you're obviously removing all of those grains, no oatmeal, no rice, no, none of that stuff. So that's a lot less sugar.
Yeah.
But you're still doing sweet potato and stuff like that. So keto is wonderful because immediately your carbs go way down,
Way
and so you
down.
don't have the insulin problem. And so that's in fact what happened for me, is I didn't achieve real stability with the perimenopause until it was progesterone plus keto.
Okay.
And then the world opened up for me. It was fabulous. Almost everything resolved except for constipation and fatigue.
Okay.
Didn't matter how much progesterone I used or how well I ate on keto. And I was one of those clean keto people, right? Like
Oh,
just having Brussels sprouts and meat. I wasn't popping keto bombs or any, uh, making keto cupcakes or any of that stuff really. So I was pretty clean, and I couldn't understand why those two issues were sticking with me. People don't realize that estrogen causes constipation. When you're out of balance and you
yeah.
have too much estrogen, it causes constipation. So that's why I finally, between the inflammation I had after COVID in the fall and just really, really frustrated I had not been able to resolve the constipation and fatigue, I was really intrigued by carnivore. And that's what got me to carnivore was I wanted to be 100% Rose. I wanted to be no issues whatsoever. I wanted to feel like $1,000,000, not
Not
100,000.
halfway there.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was halfway there, or not even halfway there. So so that's how I got to carnivore, and um, I really don't. I it's like a miracle because um, it just happened, right? Like I've been following this keto naturopath that I absolutely love, Carl Goldkamp, and I've been following him for years on YouTube. But all of a sudden, here comes Dr. Berg with
Yeah.
a discussion about if keto's not getting you the results, you might try carnivore. And he talks about carnivore. He was favorable to it, and I thought, oh, that's interesting. And then popped Dr. Berry, and
Well,
once I heard him, I was convinced I should try it.
Well, like I had mentioned to you earlier when you brought this up, is that I'm really, really surprised that Dr. Berg was not one of the first ones that showed up with the naturopath that you were following,
I know.
because when I stepped into this space, he was all that I saw, right? And I even took a certification course through him and
Yep.
just on and on. He was all the rage. And then I got led to so many other avenues that it's just like really crazy, right? You get overwhelmed and you just follow, follow, follow. And then but he is really easy to understand. He's very transparent with his
Yeah.
material. But I am shocked, but I'm glad that you eventually found him or he found you.
Well, I believe that. Um, I'm not religious, but I'm spiritual.
We both talked about this, girl. Sing
Yep.
your praises, sing them, sing
Yeah.
them.
And I believe that I would not have been ready for Dr. Berg a minute before I saw that video in February. And I love him too. I don't love his, 7 cups of vegetables every day because that doesn't work for me. But everything else about the guy I absolutely love. And I still watch his videos. He just came out with one the other day about how beef is anti-inflammatory. So he's sending an important message to people who may never go all carnivore, which is you've got to get some nutrients from beef, right? So he's pro beef. I love that about him. But anyway, I think the universe knew that I needed to like be where I was at until I was ready, and I couldn't have received Dr. Berg's message a minute earlier, it would have gone right over my head. But yeah, it's very interesting because I followed Dr. Goldkamp and this other gal who I stopped following because she's not keto, but she has a handle on a lot of supplements that I'm interested in. But yeah, those were the only 2 naturopaths I followed.
Okay. Well, that is really interesting. So let me take it back, girl, to 35 years old when you said
Okay.
that perimenopause can actually show up at 35. I think mine was about 33, 35, but I clearly remember at 35 thinking I was crazy, literally crazy. Now, I've had some mental health issues due to food, due to childhood trauma, all that good stuff, but I worked it out for whatever. But I literally thought I was going insane because things that my family would do or things that would happen out in society, it would just send me into a rage. And one time I just thought, I am just going to kill that individual if she does that one more time. And that individual was my daughter. I mean, it was a flash. It was just a crazy thought. I really didn't
Right,
mean it, but it brought me back like, who are you talking about bringing harm to your
right,
offspring? That's not natural, right? But still, I didn't go get help. I had cycles that were extremely heavy, no matter how many pads I wore, tampons, the whole nine. It was like a floodgate. I went and
yeah,
had procedures. It was still horrible, but I didn't believe in medication for myself then. And estrogen, progesterone, what are you talking about? My
right,
best friend was doing what you were doing. She's 10 years my senior. She was doing the creams and whatnot just to get through. And I was like, oh my gosh, I think I'm crazy, but she's really crazy. You know what I'm saying? So, and then they didn't, what is it, the HRT, about heart issues, women's health, and all that stuff. I was just terrified, but I wasn't educated as well.
right.
Right. So, if you had it to do, let's just play a devil's advocate. If you had it to do all over again, knowing what you know now, how would you approach symptoms of perimenopause?
What a great question,
Yeah.
Rose. What a great question. I've thought so much about this. So when I was driving home in tears at 35, my mom was interested in nutrition since the 70s, and so I was talking with her, and she's like, "Okay," and so we started on like omega-3 and 5-HTP and SAM-E, thinking it was mental, right? And what we didn't think about was hormones, because you're 35, it can't. But if I had to do it differently, knowing what I know now, driving, the minute that I felt this weird, morose, melancholy crying on my drive home, I would have gone to progesterone, because that would have balanced out the estrogen. But um, really, at the heart of the matter, like I said earlier, I have had unbalanced hormones my entire life. And I believe that's from the diet. So if I could even reel it back even further, I would have been keto or carnivore since day one of life, and then I would never have had the dysregulated hormones, and then I would never have to deal, probably even with progesterone, going through perimenopause and menopause. And I believe that, 300 years ago, when women went through menopause, it was a breeze, right? Because they were eating eggs from the farm that they had, the chickens they had in the back, they were eating meat, there wasn't any processed food. And so their diet kept their hormones balanced all through their life. And so, yes, but knowing what I know and living in modern day and not having a good diet, I would have at least started with progesterone right away.
Okay.
You can balance out those hormones very quickly with progesterone, because progesterone is the building block for all hormones, really. So you'll handle stress much better, you'll sleep much better, and you'll balance all that estrogen that you're taking in. Now, remember, we're taking in the estrogen. It's not just our bodies that are dysregulated, but we're bombarded with estrogen.
Yeah.
Estrogen is in the water, because
Yes.
guess what? All the women taking birth control, estrogen is in the air. Believe it or not, exhaust from cars acts in our body like estrogen. It's a xenoestrogen. It's in our food. Anything wrapped in plastic, anything drank from a plastic container is going to give you an estrogen effect. It's going to hit the estrogen receptors in your body and throw everything out of balance. So yeah, I would have started on progesterone, but mainly I should have changed my diet. If you're a young woman out there and you're having any kind of weird symptoms like Rose talked about, either rage or, sad, weepy depression. Weepiness is the first sign for me. Like, I will all of a sudden just have a memory and just like tears will well up. I know I've stressed myself out or something, and I've gotten out of balance. But for some women, it can be rage. It can throw off the testosterone too. You can raise your testosterone by being out of balance, and I've definitely had those moments too. But progesterone seems to level everything out. It helps you cope with stress. There's lots of papers on this, and so like you, Rose, I was terrified. I had to figure this stuff out on my own, but I found wonderful resources on the web, and I've read many like actual medical papers, like about progesterone, and I convinced myself it was completely safe. And I have been using buckets of the stuff since 2019, so full year 2019 to now.
Okay.
And I've had nothing but positive results, no negative side effects whatsoever. And the interesting thing is, when I went to Carnivore, I would always do 3 times a day. First thing in the morning, right before bed, and then sometimes, before Carnivore, I was doing it in the afternoon, just to kind of, but just less. And with Carnivore, I forget to do the afternoon all the time. I just buzzard. I feel so good that I don't even remember to go do that. I am handling the stress of my life so much better that I don't even need that little boost of protection from the progesterone in the middle of the day anymore, or the afternoon. So So that's why I say, and it could be because I'm fully in menopause now, and so
Yeah,
maybe I don't eat as much.
yeah.
But yeah, I think diet first and then
Mhm.
progesterone, and it would have been a completely different scene for me. Um, but if you are in a bad way,
Yes.
um, I have mapped out everything I've ever used, all the supplements um, that I've used
Yeah.
to get myself to carnivore, because
Yeah.
I view all of that stuff was a means to stay sane until I could find carnivore.
But you also, guys, I forgot to mention that Kim Shine, although she didn't put it there, Kim Shine, you are and you can be found at kimshine.org, if I remember correctly, right?
Yeah,
And you
exactly.
have two pages on your website dedicated specifically to your experiences. Do you
Yeah.
want to talk a little bit about that?
Oh, sure. Yeah, like
Yeah.
Rose said, if you go to kimshine.org, there's one page called Meat for Menopause. And I think we should figure out how to do something with that, Rose.
Well,
Um, Meat
well,
for
we can just
Menopause.
talk. Hey, let's just talk about it now. Would you be willing to come back and just do like a menopause series with me?
Oh
I
yeah.
mean,
I
yeah.
yeah,
So meet for menopause. Here we go. When we don't know, but
right.
it will come back.
Exactly.
It'll come back as
Exactly.
alive.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay. Go ahead, Kim.
it's
Yeah.
MEAT for menopause. And why I say that is because if I had known what I know now and I'd just gone carnivore, I would have saved myself so many headaches. But so the third column in my Meat for Menopause page talks about, all the things that were resolved for me finally 100% with carnivore. But I also lay out, look, some people can't go carnivore. They're never going to be able to go carnivore for some reason.
So
So,
give me an example of why you would think someone would not be able to go carnivore. And I can just share with you one reason why I think is because they're not willing to give up the drug-like foods that keep them happy, or if they're in a family environment that has a lot of these processed foods around, they will just fall off whatever wagon again and again and again. So that's my main thing, you know.
yeah, no, I agree. I think that there's some people that would be willing to go keto, but not really carnivore. Maybe because of the vegetables, they might not be willing to believe that we don't need vegetables. So I'm going to be a little bit more gracious, Rose, and say, it's maybe they're willing to give up their addictions, but they aren't. They really don't believe you can live without broccoli.
Yeah.
Um, so some people may want to stay keto for that reason. Also, there's flexibility. Like I know um, you can go to McDonald's and get burger patties without the bun and stay carnivore when you're traveling. But but I can't. I, like one of the reasons I'm able to go from vegan to carnivore is that I buy meat that's you know humanely raised, organic if I can, grass fed if I can. So I would find it really hard to eat a McDonald's burger. I mean, it's perfectly fine if, but it's because I spent years as a vegan, and I'm afraid that that burger patty came from a feedlot cow that didn't have a happy life, and so there's some reasons why when I travel, I might not be able to get enough protein from. I might have to have a keto protein bar.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so a whey protein bar of some kind that's keto, no carb. And so I think we have to allow people some grace. And if they aren't like us and they can't just live on hamburger and steak
Yeah.
and eggs, they might want to be keto. And so I list out there
Mhm.
all of the supplements and like what you can expect to resolve with keto and progesterone. But you may still have, I'm sorry, you may still have constipation because that did not resolve for me at all until carnivore. And you may still have some fatigue because all of those things, those plant toxins, the broccoli, they were preventing my body from absorbing the nutrients in my meat.
Mhm.
So actually what I might do, Rose, is I might go out there and talk about if you're going to be keto and you're going to eat broccoli,
Mhm.
at least separate those meals. Have your broccoli as a meal and then
Yeah.
have your steak as a meal 2 hours later so that your body can absorb the goodness from the beef.
Okay.
But if you eat them together
Yeah.
and you're like me, it will all that. And actually, one of the guys, I don't know if it was Dr. Baker, he talked about how you can prevent your body from absorbing the
Absorbing.
goodness in your meat just by having the fiber.
Yeah.
So so anyway, and then I talk about paleo. If you're going to stay paleo, and some people may not want to give up their sweet potatoes. They
Yeah.
don't want to go low carb.
Yeah.
Um, but so my little table there shows you you'll get so far with paleo, you'll get so far with keto. But if you want to get 100%, here's what you can expect with carnivore.
Yeah.
But all of my supplements are out there and what they do for you and what the best ones are and what quantities to take. Things like calcium deglucarate, it just
Mhm.
helps your body get the excess estrogen out of your system because it
Okay.
binds with it. There's DIM, which will prevent your body from turning available testosterone into estrogen, which it wants to do without
Mhm.
DIM. And then, there's things like magnesium and vitamin D3. These things are important to help your body, utilize the progesterone that you're going to put on. But yeah, it's a miracle where I came from. I mean, I was out of my mind. That's exactly how you described it, Rose, as going crazy. I was out of my mind with anxiety and panic attacks, and I could not function. And so I know what it is. Yeah, it's bad.
So I want to kind of piggyback on what you said earlier, in regards to being able to eat certain kinds of meat or going to McDonald's and whatnot. So my whole thing is I recognize I have food addiction, specifically processed food, sugar addiction and whatnot, and so I have to abstain, right? And I went on a trip, a couple of, well, actually two, Amtrak trip day trains, and I ended up eating McDonald's hamburgers. Not that I didn't want McDonald's, but I just thought a different kind of burger, like a Burger King, their Whopper patty would have been more heartier. So I ended up getting, I think, 8 patties from McDonald's, and they were fine. They were absolutely fine. And I wasn't as full as I normally like to be because I didn't have my eggs to supplement that, right?
Right.
And then it got me to thinking, like, I really am not the type of person. I don't want to say if the meat comes from Walmart or Costco or wherever. It really doesn't matter to me so long as the meat doesn't have a smell and it's good meat and it's at a
Right.
reasonable price, right? But someone like you, on the other hand, that has experience and you care about animal welfare, and I think I do too, to a degree, but
Yeah. I mean, we're
but
we're
but what I'm
we're
saying is the main thing is to cut out the processed foods as
yeah,
much as possible and do it whatever means is necessary that can
yeah,
fit your budget. And when you have better, then you can do a little bit better.
yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. There's nothing wrong with McDonald's hamburgers
Mhm.
if you're not, you know, and actually, I'm going to make a T-shirt, Rose. I'm
Oh,
going to make a T-shirt, and it's going to say, "Grateful recovering vegan, healing
oh,
my gut, rebuilding bones, muscles, and brain tissue, one steak at a time."
ooh,
But
you go.
like that's the thing is I'm a recovering vegan. I was pretty brainwashed by that whole movement. So,
Yeah.
I think what you're seeing in me is someone who's still climbing her way out of that brainwashing, right? And there may be a day where I would have no problem going to McDonald's again,
Yeah.
but I'm not there yet. And so,
Yes.
the other thing that I've noticed is, and this is a bummer for me, I would give anything if I could go to Costco and buy my meat.
That's the only place I buy my
It's
burgers
fabulous.
and
Yeah, it's
pork and all that
fabulous.
good stuff. Yes, that's
I
where I
tell you
go.
what, it's
It's my
amazing.
jam.
And I go there and I buy olive Ray's meat there. But
Okay.
when I eat the meat, I get a little bit of a estrogen imbalance. I think that, because they do put a little bit of estrogen in the cows to get them to bulk up at the end. And so the meat I buy is not only like animal welfare, but they also don't do the hormones. And
Okay.
so I feel like I feel a lot better on the hormone free meat
Okay.
right now. But
Okay.
maybe when I'm 10 years into menopause, bring on the estrogen, right? Maybe I'll need more estrogen then, and then I'll be able to eat the Costco meat. But so it's partly the worry about these animals coming from feedlots, because how can you produce beef that cheap if they're
Right.
not cramming them
Right.
in. But partly it's also because if there's any kind of hormones involved in that meat production, I will feel it
Okay.
coming from where I'm coming from. But yeah, I test every few weeks. I'll have some of the Costco meat to see if it's
Mhm.
still. But you know how it manifests, Rose?
Yeah.
If I have the Costco meat,
Mhm.
I will
How?
be constipated. I will get
Oh,
constipated. That's how I know there's estrogen in that meat, because I
okay.
no longer go to anxiety. I
Okay.
no longer go to panic attacks, but my body reacts by just slowing
Shutting
down.
down. Okay.
Yeah. So
Okay.
it's really interesting. But yes, nothing wrong with McDonald's hamburgers.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I wish I could handle them right now. But
Yeah.
but like this trip coming up, I definitely am packed in as much meat as I can. But I will bring some keto protein bars,
Mhm.
because when I run out of the meat, there's only so much meat they let you take on a carry-on bag.
Darn it. Darn it.
But when I,
Right.
if I can't get enough meat, I will, because of the one thing I do know is I cannot be without enough protein. Because
Okay.
that, to your point, Rose, that's when the cravings kick in. All of a sudden, other stuff will look good if I'm hungry and I haven't had enough protein. So I will take some keto bars, but my fervent hope is that I don't need to use them on my trip.
Okay.
They
But
will
you'll have them. You'll
I'll
have
have
them.
them for emergencies, but I'm going to try as much as possible to get into some Whole Foods or Trader Joe's or whatever and pick up, hard boiled eggs and meat and things I can eat that are carnivore.
So tell me, what's the best part of being in menopause? So I've been in menopause, I want to say probably for about 5 years, just over 5 years. What's the best part for you about being in menopause?
Well, I'm going to say it. I do not miss the period.
Yeah.
OMG. I went through my closet. I held on to all the pads and stuff,
Yeah.
because then, I was like, fingers crossed, because I don't know about you, but it like I'd go 2-3 months without one and then I'd get one. So the
Yes.
last 2 or 3 years heading into menopause was like, surprise, you don't know when you're going to get it. And so finally, after one full year of no period, I went through
Mhm.
my store of
Mhm.
pads, and, because I'd buy them on sale and stock up on one of those type people.
Mhm.
And I was like, woohoo! Do not
Done.
need these anymore. So
Done.
that's the best part is
Mhm.
is I don't have to go and wash out stains from my
Yeah.
panties. I mean, that's really the best part. It's just never having to worry about what's in your crotch.
Yeah.
You know?
Is there gonna be a oopsie? You know?
Exactly. So that's freedom number one.
Yeah.
And I think, like, the other thing that's really great about it is, for me, it really has mellowed out. Like I was
Mhm.
saying, sometimes I'd have to go in and put on some extra
Yeah.
progesterone if I went for a longer bike ride, or I had some extra stress. And now, like I said, with carnivore and being in menopause, I do the hit in the morning and I do the hit at night, and it just keeps things just perfect. And
Moving right along.
there's less. I'm steady Eddie. There's less worry about fluctuations in energy and mood, things like
Yeah.
that. So I do love that. Um, I don't know if you listened to the interview that Anthony Chafee did with, I think her name's Giselle or Gazelle.
Oh.
Oh, anyway, she's got a show on YouTube called Hanging with the Browns, and
Oh,
she's
okay.
awesome. But she
Okay.
was asking him, she's on his show and she's
Uh-huh.
interviewing him and getting all of her questions answered. You have to go
Okay.
watch this one. You are going to get
Okay.
out of this gal. But
Okay.
anyway, she's 60 and she's like,
Okay.
Dr. Chafee, what can I do? I want to start chasing my husband again. What do I do about my libido?
Okay. I love it. I love it.
And so I
Okay.
will say, like, that's probably the less good thing about menopause is, not feeling that, like, oomph that you.
Like, I got that chutzpah, that mojo.
Yes, yeah. So I'm hoping with carnivore, I'm only 3 months into this deal, but I'm hoping at about a year or so, full on carnivore and high fat carnivore, maybe I can get a little of that
Yeah.
sexy vibe back, but I'm also, I'm fine. I can make it happen if I have to.
Right on. Make it happen if you have to, but we know what to do. We know what to do.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. So one of my favorite things other than just being done with menopause, being done and at a steady state of energy, like you say, no more mood swings. I am so sure of myself, right? I think I've always been really sure of myself, but I'm like uber sure. And even if I'm not, it's like, oh well, life goes on. Let's keep pressing on. I think my attitude has changed in that regard. So somebody is posting here in the comments. I don't can you see on your end? There's
No,
a
you'll have
T
to read for
Lewis.
me.
There's a T. Lewis that says they have hi T. Lewis first and foremost. They have carnivore bars and Costco sells grass fed finished beef, and it's Giselle Brown hanging with the Browns.
Yeah, okay, so T.
Yeah,
Lewis knows. Yeah. Isn't she
yeah.
a hoot? I just love her. I can't wait to go watch some of her videos.
Oh,
Um, they have carnivore bars and
yeah.
yeah, the carnivore bars though are $16 a bar. I can't
$16 a
afford that.
bar
$16 a bar, carnivore bars. So I can't afford that.
from
Um,
Costco.
no,
Carnivore.
I
Oh,
think
the
T.
con.
Lewis is saying they have carnivore bars, and then they're saying and Costco sells
Okay.
grass fed. Yes,
Yeah.
grass fed, grass finished beef. Yeah, but not in the big packages of ribeyes for a decent amount. But yeah, even Costco's grass fed, grass finished beef is more expensive than their
Oh,
grass finished. But yes, T.
okay.
Lewis, you're spot on,
Mm.
and yes, I would love to be able to eat those carnivore bars. They actually look perfect for what my trip, but it's a 12-day trip. And 12 times 16 is a bit much for me to spend just to
Well,
have.
but $16 for one bar, aren't they only like 200 calories or 300
No, they're
calories or
they're
something?
like a meal replacement. They're like 400 to 500 calories.
Girl, a meal for me is not 400 calories. My
I
meal is
know. Yeah,
okay, so there
yeah,
is a recipe for pemmican homemade.
yes.
Oh,
And at T. Lewis, you're right, spot on. I'm actually looking at making those. The problem is my suitcase. I don't like to check my bag, so everything's got to be carry on, and my suitcase is going to be a little heavy with pemmican. So what I did is I got carnivore crisps, and I did the chuck roast in the air dried chuck roast.
okay. All right.
But
T.
yes,
Lewis, you coming with it, girl. This is what I'm
yeah,
talking about. So, Kim, are you able to see the
I
comments?
am now. Yes, I was on the wrong tab. I was on the
Okay.
private chat, and so now I'm on comments.
Okay.
Got
This
it.
is perfect then.
This is
Perfect.
perfect.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get ready to close out because we're coming up on an hour. And I have to say, I couldn't have asked a better person to join me in this first time journey with Yardstream or StreamYard. I always get it mixed up. So I
Premier.
thank you for StreamYard.
Yeah.
Well, whatever, we're live, girl. But I'm a better partner for this. So I'm going to ask you, Miss Kim, to take a look at your schedule and see when we can come back and maybe talk about some very specific questions pertaining to perimenopause and menopause
I
and
would love that.
carnivore, even if we just craft our own questions and just start a
Yeah.
conversation from there and people can join in as we go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to close out with saying thank you to everybody who viewed this first live, and thank you to Kim Shine at kimshine.org. Um, Kim, if I'm correct and I remember right, you don't have a social media presence, but they can reach you through your
Yeah.
website.
Yeah. You can reach me through the website, and I don't have a YouTube channel yet, although I would love to start one. And I think I mentioned I'd call it the Lazy Carnivore because I'd
Yeah.
show all the tips and tricks of like how I really quickly cook and and streamline everything so I'm not doing tons of dishes and because I do like to do that. So if I can find enough, if I can think of enough content to keep people interested for at
Yeah.
least 4 or 5 videos, I might just go learn how to do a YouTube channel.
It's so easy. If I did
Isn't
it,
it?
you can do it. Just start, girl. Just start. Okay. Get your microphone and go. Okay.
Well, thank you
Um,
to Lewis
you
for all the
thank
chats. That
you.
was fun.
Yes, yes, so much. Okay, girls. So if I don't hear from you, Kim, I can expect to see you on the 11th.
Yes, I'll be there on the
Okay,
11th. I'm looking
perfect.
forward to meeting you in person
Yes,
and
yes,
meeting a lot of Pacific Northwest carnivore,
yes. Low
keto,
carbers, even if
keto
they're
people.
standard
Yeah,
American diet, come on out. We might influence you.
that's right. Yeah,
Okay. All right. Thanks again, everyone. And thanks again, Kim, for being my ride or die tonight. I appreciate you.
right
All
on.
right.
It was so fun.
Take care.
Thanks.
Bye bye.
Bye.